From the Milwaukee Brewers, pitcher Ben Sheets. From the Montreal Expos, outfielder Vladimir Guerrero. From the New York Mets, pitcher Rick Reed. From the Philadelphia Phillies, shortstop Jimmy Rollins. From the Pittsburgh Pirates, outfielder Brian Giles. From the St. Louis Cardinals, third baseman Albert Pujols. And pitcher Matt Morris. And from the San Diego Padres, outfielder and honorary All-Star Tony Gwynn. Third baseman Phil Nevin. And first baseman Ryan Klesko. Now let's meet the American League All-Stars. First, the coaches. From the Seattle Mariners, manager Lou Piniella. From the Kansas City Royals, manager Tony Muser. And now the players. From the Anaheim Angels, third baseman Troy Glaus. Pitcher Troy Percival. From the Chicago White Sox, outfielder Magglio Ordonez. From the Cleveland Indians, second baseman Roberto Alomar. From the Detroit Tigers, first baseman Tony Clark. From the Kansas City Royals, first baseman Mike Sweeney. From the Minnesota Twins, shortstop Christian Guzman. Pitcher Eric Milton. And pitcher Joe Mays. From the New York Yankees, shortstop Derek Jeter. Catcher Jorge Posada. Pitcher Mike Stanton. Pitcher Andy Pettitte. And outfielder Bernie Williams. From the Oakland Athletics, first baseman Jason Giambi. From the Seattle Mariners, pitcher Kazuhiro Sasaki. Pitcher Freddie Garcia. Pitcher Jeff Nelson. And outfielder Mike Kimbrell. From the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, outfielder Greg Vaughn. And from the Toronto Blue Jays, pitcher Paul Quantrill. Now, let's meet the National League manager and starting lineup. The manager from the New York Mets, Bobby Valentine. Leading off from the Arizona Diamondbacks, center fielder Luis Gonzalez. Batting second from the Colorado Rockies, first baseman Todd Helton. Batting third from the San Francisco Giants, left fielder Barry Bonds. Batting fourth from the Chicago Cubs, right fielder Sammy Sosa. Batting fifth from the Colorado Rockies, designated hitter Larry Walker. Batting sixth from the New York Mets, catcher Mike Piazza. Batting seventh from the Atlanta Braves, third baseman Chipper Jones. Batting eighth from the San Francisco Giants, second baseman Jeff Kent. And batting ninth from the San Francisco Giants, shortstop Rich Aurelia. And the National League starting pitcher warming up in the bullpen from the Arizona Diamondbacks, Randy Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2001 National League All-Stars. Now, let's meet the American League manager and starting lineup. The manager from the New York Yankees, Joe Torre. Leading off from the Seattle Mariners, center fielder Ichiro Suzuki. Batting second from the Texas Rangers, shortstop Alex Rodriguez. Batting third from the Boston Red Sox, left fielder Manny Ramirez. Batting fourth from the Seattle Mariners, second baseman Brett Boone. Batting fifth from the Cleveland Indians, right fielder Juan Gonzalez. Batting sixth from the Seattle Mariners, first baseman John Olerud. Batting seventh from the Seattle Mariners, designated hitter Edgar Martinez. And batting ninth for the Texas Rangers, the catcher, Ivan Rodriguez. Pitching for the American League and warming up in the bullpen from the New York Yankees, Roger Clemens. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2001 American League All-Stars.
Tom, nice job. I sure hope these fans are worn out. They will have plenty more opportunities to cheer tonight. 72nd All-Star Game rolls on. The national anthem when we come back. Meter is already at 3. I've had 3 stars are on the field. We'll talk more about Ichiro as we look at Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens, who makes the start. He last started an All-Star game in 1986 wearing a Red Sox uniform. Now he's wearing a Yankee uniform. And his stretch over the past calendar year has been nothing short of spectacular for the New York Yankees. He finally is the pitcher the Yankees thought they were getting when they traded David Wells, Graham Lloyd, Homer Bush to Toronto to get him. He is the dominating pitcher they wanted.
A rough year in 1999, his first year coming to the Yankees. On the disabled list for part of last season, but since July 1st of last year, when he came off the disabled list, he has been his old dominating self.
Alex Rodriguez thought of this. He grew up in Miami idolizing Cal Ripken Jr. And he thought this year should be the year that Cal Ripken Jr. should finish as an All-Star and start this game as a shortstop, where he, as Kevin Kennedy said in the pregame, revolutionized the position of shortstop. Cal has no idea, and Alex Rodriguez said, you know what? I want Ripken to play short, and we'll see if Ripken is accepting. You knew he wouldn't want to go. Joe Torre back up for Alex Rodriguez. And in this 72nd All-Star game, the 19-time All-Star deserves to go out and play this first inning as the shortstop.
Hey, you've got to do what your manager tells you, right?
He's only following instructions. I think he just said to Roger Clemens, strike him out. Don't have him hit it up the middle. So a classy gesture from a classy man. Alex Rodriguez, his idea, and Cal Ripken fought it. But Junior finally gave in when Joe Torre said, get over there. So there's a surprise for Cal already. And Luis Gonzalez will stand in and get it started for the National League. We hope to do justice during the course of this game, Tim. I'm going to leave this up to you. We've got to do justice to all of these players coming in the game, but they come and go so quickly. There are so many stories here, and this is one of them. Luis Gonzalez with 35 home runs. The winner of the home run derby competition yesterday as Clemens starts him with a strike. Gonzalez last year career high 31 home runs. He's already 4 better than that, and he's only 4 home runs shy of that guy, Barry Bonds, after the first half of the season. 1 ball, 1 strike.
His prior 9 years in the major leagues, he averaged only 15 home runs a year, and he has 66 in his last year and a half. Mind-boggling.
2 balls and a strike. And to think the Arizona Diamondbacks traded Kareem Garcia to get him. Kareem Garcia, talented outfielder, never did what this guy's doing. They also got cash.
Yeah.
They sent Luis Gonzalez and cash to Arizona to make the deal. As he pops it up left side of the infield, and Alex Rodriguez, the third baseman at the shortstop position, takes it in for the first out of the night. I don't know how to mark that down in my scorebook. I guess pop up to the third baseman. Once again, tonight's starting lineup for the National League. It's brought to you by Pepsi. Luis Gonzalez will lead it off. He's in center field. That a late change. Then Helton, Bonds, Sosa, Walker, Piazza in the middle. Jones, Kent, and Aurelia the bottom three. All-star career, a .353 average for Mike Piazza. Broken toe and all, he's here and in the lineup. And he will face Roger Clemens in the second inning unless the National Leaguers bust out here in the first. There's a strike to Todd Helton, one of the best natural athletes, natural hitters in baseball. That's going to be out of play in the count 0-2.
You're going to see a lot of sweet swings tonight, folks, but none better than the gentleman right here, Todd Helton, who's used to breaking records. He set 19 different records at the University of Tennessee in baseball.
He's gone here for the second out of the first inning, and the first strikeout for Clemens. 2 out. And we look at the defense for the American League. A change in that Suzuki, who has played mainly right field, not only here but in Japan. Ichiro's in center. Ivan Rodriguez, 9th consecutive All-Star start. That ties him the major league record among catchers. He and Johnny Bench. 2 out, nobody on, and Barry Bonds takes a fastball 95 miles per hour from Clemens for strike 1. Barry Bonds, 39 home runs, #1 in the major leagues. He is on pace, Tim, I know you love it, at this pace. He's on a pace to break Mark McGwire's single season home run record of 70 set back in 1998. That's a clunker foul on the count 1-2.
He's been on that pace for about 2.5 weeks. However, he has dried up as far as the home runs are concerned. Barry looking forward to a strong second half if he's going to do it. Gonzalez only 4 home runs behind Barry Bonds at the break.
Bonds has not homered since June 23rd against the Cardinals of all teams. And Darryl Kyle, the fastball is high, and the count 2 balls 2 strikes. If Bonds should reach, Sosa will bat. 2 out, nobody on. And a little comebacker pitching. Clemens dominating the first inning. And the change of positions. For the first time, Ripken playing short since 1997. Get over there, Hall of Famer. Local hero, international hero, Ichiro will lead it off for the American League. And their lineup brought to you by Pepsi. It's Ichiro. Then Alex Rodriguez, the shortstop. Manny Ramirez is the left fielder. Brett Boone, Juan Gonzalez, John Olruth. The bottom 3, Martinez, Cal Ripken Jr., and Ivan Rodriguez batting 9th. How about the defense for the National League? Change right before the start as Luis Gonzalez is in center and Sosa's over in right. Around the infield, you see up the middle, strong with the Giants, Rich Aurelia, Jeff Kent. First National League middle infield teammates to start since 1985, and here is Ichiro. The skeptics all said, no, it won't work. He'll get his comeuppance when he comes to the U.S. and Canada and plays in the quote-unquote major leagues. This guy is one of the front runners for the MVP award in the American League.
Leads the American League in hits with 134.
Rolls one over to Helton. Johnson's not there. Base hit.
How can I beat you? Let me count the ways. Ichiro, who's almost running when he swings the bat, beats Johnson to the bag.
Some have clocked Ichiro down the line at 3.75 seconds, which is unheard of. Anything under 4 is fantastic. You hear 3.75, 3.8. I like his chances in a race against Randy Johnson, although it takes him only 2 strides to get there. A strike to Alex Rodriguez, the #2 hitter. And lost in the cheers for Ichiro, the cheers for A-Rod, who, as I mentioned, was choked up after failing to advance past the first round of the home run derby here at Safeco Field yesterday. That's on the inside corner, 0-2.
The third time Alex Rodriguez has played here since signing the huge contract with the Texas Rangers, $252 million over 10 years. Greeted roughly the first 2 times around, but not today.
Randy almost caught Ichiro over there. napping or leaning, but he was able to get back on the wide throw, and we await the 0-2 pitch to Rodriguez. Nothing new for Ichiro. Leads the league with 134 hits during the regular season. He's on at first. That stays high, and it's 1-2 on Alex Rodriguez as we focus in on Randy Johnson.
The big unit, when he releases the ball, it's as though he's releasing it right in front of you. 11-5 on the year. Numbers always strong for Randy Johnson.
3-time Cy Young Award winner. Last 2 years with Arizona, he won the Cy Young right here in Seattle back in '97. And the 202 strikeouts, by far the most in the major leagues. 1 on, nobody out. 2-2 pitch. Rodriguez takes ball 3. It was 0-2. Now it's a full count.
Ichiro could be running here, and one of the stories today, Mike Piazza catching with a broken left big toe. We'll see how Mike throws if called upon.
Ichiro is running. Rodriguez strikes out, and the throw, well, it was ugly, and Piazza comes up hopping as he tried to land on that front foot. I don't know if he was bothered by Alex Rodriguez or not, but that's a bad sign for Piazza with that throw.
Yeah, whether it's your right big toe or your left one, that landing big toe, this throw right here, he could have been bothered a little by Rodriguez, but this throw to second base, not even close. Ichiro stealing second, 28 on the year.
So a runner at second with 1 out, and Manny Ramirez is at the plate. Strike 1. Mike Piazza had about 3 different reasons not to show up here in Seattle.
He surely did.
The biggest one was the broken left toe. He is one of baseball's legitimate tough guys, one of the legitimate good guys in Major League Baseball, and my hat's off to him for fighting to get here to Seattle, while you hear other players say, I'd rather take the time off. 0-2 the count on Manny Ramirez. One of the other reasons is all that has gone on between he and Roger Clemens, and the two will hook up in the second inning. I think for Piazza, for Clemens, for everybody involved, it'll be nice to be able to put that all to bed. Runner at second with 1 out. Runner at second with 2 out as Randy Johnson blows away Manny Ramirez. And who would have thought that Brett Boone signing a 1-year contract to play in Seattle would end up hitting cleanup in this year's All-Star game?
It's very close, but Brett Boone is my pick for the first half most valuable player. I know a lot of people would pick Manny Ramirez, but Brett Boone gives you on the other side of the ball what Ramirez doesn't. A complete player, always a great defensive player, but this year leading the American League in RBIs.
Breaking ball in for a strike from Randy Johnson. First time as a starter for Brett Boone. Last year a .251 average with San Diego. Runner at second, 2 out, and that's a little high. 1 ball, 1 strike.
It's got to be particularly difficult for these hitters, and usually when you start on the West Coast, 5 o'clock start Pacific time, or 5:30, very, very difficult right there. It's tough for the defense in center and right, second base, first base, and particularly difficult for the hitters until the sun goes away. It goes down. It's not going to go away.
It's not going to go away?
It's not
You
going to go away.
promise?
I promise.
What's going to happen tomorrow morning?
It will not. It'll come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 balls and a strike with Ichiro at second, 2 out. And the American League trying to grab a first inning lead. Boone with a big swing. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Little guy, big swing.
When you're seeing the ball well, it's tough to catch up to a fastball up around the letters from Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson really a 2-pitch pitcher, but oh, those 2 pitches.
Boone trying to bring home his teammate Ichiro. No score here in the first inning. Randy Johnson misses. And it's a full count. On deck is Juan Gonzalez. Edgar Martinez, arguably the best DH in Major League Baseball history, a history that dates back to 1973. He's batting 7th. Johnson trying to pitch around a leadoff infield single by Ichiro, a stolen base, 3-2 pitch. We'll do it again.
Brett Boone, the first of a 3-generation family. Brett's father, Bob, the manager of the Cincinnati Reds. His brother, Aaron, the third baseman. And his grandfather, Ray, 78 years young, was in the clubhouse the other day, oohing and eyeing over the size of the Seattle Mariners clubhouse. Couldn't get over it.
3 balls, 2 strikes for the runner at second. Boone off the end of the bat should end the inning if someone can get there. Which Giant wants it? It's the shortstop Giant, Rich Aurelia. Ichiro, speed already a factor, showing that off here in this All-Star game. An infield hit. He's left stranded, no score after 1. Into the second inning with no score here in Seattle. Sammy Sosa will lead off against Roger Clemens. Sosa, Larry Walker, the DH, and Mike Piazza. No score in the second, and 1 pitch. 2 hopper to the shortstop. He's back at short. Alex Rodriguez 1 away. And nothing to it so far for Roger Clemens. That'll bring in Larry Walker. He's tied for 3rd in the National League with his 83 runs batted in, the 97 most valuable player. Since he ended up in Colorado, all he has done is hit. Mike Piazza waits on deck. Walker takes a ball.
At least Larry Walker's a teammate of Randy Johnson's this year's All-Star game. You mentioned 97. Larry Walker, after having the ball thrown over his head, turned around to hit right-handed against Johnson in Cleveland.
1 ball, 1 strike. 2 former Montreal Expo farmhands, Larry Walker and Randy Johnson, now on the same team in the National League All-Stars. Here in 2001, the 1-1 pitch, 2 balls and a strike. Larry Walker has some inflammation in his right elbow. He wanted to come here and take part in the festivities. Hit. He's the DH. One of the best defensive outfielders in the game still. Here's a 2-1. Into left field. Not hard hit. Manny Ramirez, 2 out. That will bring in Mike Piazza. That will bring in, I guess, chapter 3 of Piazza Clemens.
July 8th of last year at Yankee Stadium, the second of a doubleheader of sorts. The first game played at Shea Stadium, a rain-out makeup game on July 8th. The first time up, an inside fastball hitting Piazza, giving Mike a concussion, and because of that, he was not allowed to play in last year's All-Star game.
Hit him right in the front of the helmet. Then game 2 of last year's World Series, the shattered bat. Clemens picking up the jagged end of it, firing it down the first baseline in the direction of Piazza. Clemens saying afterward, even during, I thought it was the ball. These two have had a war of words through the media. They have not patched things up. As Piazza takes ball 2, 2 balls and a strike, and I know that both players, Piazza and Clemens, will be happy when this at bat is over and these two can move on. 2 balls and a strike, 2 out, nobody on, and Piazza took it on the outside corner, 2-2, and everything has been down the middle of the plate or away to Piazza.
Fastball's away. The last pitch is slider.
So now a 2-2 pitch with 2 out, nobody on here in the second inning. And it's still 2-2. Chipper Jones waits on deck. Mike Piazza has the top batting average, the top slugging percentage among catchers all time. He waits for a 2-2 and takes ball 3, and it was down and away. If Piazza continues as a catcher, when he hangs it up for good, he will likely go down as the greatest hitting catcher in the history of Major League Baseball. The question is whether he will continue as a catcher. 2 out, nobody on, 3 balls, 2 strikes, and Piazza gets it off the end of the bat into right, finding the sun as Gonzalez, and the inning is over. No base runners yet for the National League. We can put that story to bed for the rest of the night. Clemens through 2 scoreless. We welcome you back to the bottom of the second in Seattle. Let's go down to the American League dugout and Kevin Kennedy.
Joe, thanks, Roger. You're awesome again. You're having such a great first half. Are you looking for that 6th Cy Young award? I know you got 1 for each of your 4 boys, 1 for your wife. Is it time for you this time?
Well, it was nice. You know, it was nice to be a part of this, and it was exciting being able to go out there and start. It's just a huge privilege, and you know, a lot of thanks goes out to my manager for giving me the opportunity.
Roger, the Piazza at bat, everybody's been waiting for 9 months for this. Is this thing over with now?
Well, again, I've said all along, Mike's a dangerous hitter, a lot of respect there. You just have to pitch him tough, and as far as I'm concerned, it is. And again, you know, I know I'm going to face Mike down the road again, and just have to, you know, pitch him careful. He's a dangerous hitter.
It was pretty apparent you stayed away. That obviously was your intention.
Yeah, and just, you know, go down the middle with most of them with a little something on it.
Okay, Roger, thank you. Good luck in the second half. Thanks. Joe, back upstairs.
All right, Kevin, thank you, and thanks to Roger Clemens. Juan Gonzalez at the plate with John Olerud to follow, and Edgar Martinez the DH. Nothing. And I guess, Tim, when you have guys out there like Randy Johnson and the rest of his teammates that'll follow him to the mound, and the same on the other side, Clemens and the guys coming out of the bullpen for the American League, you expect pitching to dominate with the way these guys can bring it for 1 inning.
It usually has in the All Star game.
Into right field, Sosa coming in.
Kevin Kennedy talked about Roger Clemens and how he was pitching to Mike Piazza. 6 pitches. Outside, both fastballs. The splitter away. Slider gets the corner. Fouled off. And another one down. Off the end of the bat. And an out. 7 pitches. I said 6. That was a 7-pitch sequence. Nothing inside.
1 out, nobody on, and Olerud takes a strike. You have to know that Piazza at some point figured during the course of those 7 pitches that Clemens was going to work the middle of the plate or away, yet he still got one off the end of the bat. He wasn't totally sure, and he certainly wasn't leaning over the plate.
Yeah.
1 ball, 1 strike on Olerud. It was off to a 3-16 start. Bobby Valentine is the manager for the National League, enjoying his first All-Star game as a player manager. Bobby, can you hear us?
Absolutely.
Are you having fun down there?
Yeah, this is as much fun as I've had. You know, I coached in that one All-Star game in Cincinnati in '87, but to have Tommy by my side and my entire coaching staff, Dusty and Bruce, and this team, this is wonderful.
Don't let that guy to your left start anything with these umpires out here.
Well, I told them if they hear anything from my dugout, it's him, not me, and they can get rid of him anytime they want.
Hey, Bobby, let's from your perspective, and I know it might get difficult to hear, let's from your perspective talk about the Piazza situation and Clemens, just to put it to rest for the rest of the night. I'm sure you're glad that's behind you.
Well, I think it is behind us. You know, it's 2 great players battling against each other who had a couple incidences. Life goes on, and baseball is a lot bigger than their situations. No doubt about that. It's just, you know, in our market, it's tough to put things to rest.
Full count now on John Olerud with Tommy Lasorda cheering on Randy Johnson.
Speaking of great players, Bobby, John Olerud was a member of the New York Mets 2 years ago. Signed as a free agent with Seattle. He's some hitter, isn't he?
Yeah, John's just a great professional baseball player. He can field his position. He sees the ball as well as anybody in the world, and has great at-bats.
He grounds one to second for Kent. So, Bobby, I guess what you're proving here is you can listen to Tommy Lasorda and hear questions from Tim McCarver at the same time.
I don't know how the heck that happens, to tell you the truth. You know, all the players do wish, though, that this roof was closed for the first few innings here, so they have a chance of seeing the ball. It's a real tough on the hitters right now, I'll tell you that, guys.
Edgar Martinez is at the plate, the DH. Bobby, I know we're going to check back in with you later in the game. I want to talk about why Tommy Lasorda is there, and that day in the Dominican when Tommy had to tell you that was it for your playing career. But we'll save that for a little later.
I hope we have a lot of action in between now and then, but talk to you guys later. Thanks.
All right, Bobby. 2 out, nobody on here.
Already.
And Edgar Martinez, the DH, is at the plate. Edgar, a .302 average. That's down. It's typically up .320 or better. And he tries to get something going with 2 out for the American League. Randy Johnson trying to go 2 scoreless, gets the outside corner. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Arguably the biggest hit in this city's history back in 1995. Game 5 of the division series against the New York Yankees. Ken Griffey Jr. driven in by Edgar Martinez.
The great Dave Niehaus, the local radio announcer, almost blew a hamstring making that call. Edgar with the bases empty, 2 away. Randy Johnson likely finished after he gets one more out. Is that out now? No, it's not, says first base umpire Dale Scott. Cal Ripken Jr. waits to hit next, the 40-year-old. 19-time All-Star, and he will hang it up, retire at the end of the season. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, nobody on, and that'll do it for the first 2 here in Seattle. 3rd strikeout for Randy. The American League has the game's only hit, and a new pitcher is in the game for Seattle, Freddie Garcia. 10-1, an ERA of 3.18, and one of the pieces to the puzzle in the trade made in 1998 between Seattle and Houston, which sent Randy Johnson to Houston. Chipper Jones will lead it off. It'll be Jones, Kent, and Aurelia, the bottom 3 in the order for the National League. Chipper Jones making his 3rd start as an All-Star. There's Jeff Kent on deck, and away we go in the 3rd inning. That's the opposite way off the end of the bat, and Manny Ramirez has it for out number 1.
That trade that you mentioned, the first superstar piece in that trilogy of players that was traded from the Seattle Mariners. Actually, Randy Johnson traded at the trade deadline in '98. Then Ken Griffey Jr. traded a couple of years later, and then Alex Rodriguez signing as a free agent. So in 3.5 years, 3 superstars leaving the Mariners. And what do? Win 63 games in the first half of the season this year.
That leads me to my question. As Jeff Kent stands in, one of the most productive second basemen in the history of baseball with what he's done the last 4 seasons coming into this year. Is there some theory you've come up with? Is there a reason why they've lost 3 of the game's best players, and now in 2001 this team's the best team in baseball?
I don't think you could bottle a theory like that, but certainly pitching has a lot to do with it. And the guy on the mound, 10-1, with their terrific bullpen and their closer, whom I'm sure we'll see today.
That's Sasaki. You could make a strong argument for 2 of their other starters,
sure,
to be on this All-Star squad. The line was drawn after 8 in the end after Cameron was added, placing his friend Greg Vaughn. 3 balls and a strike. Jeff Nelson added late. Aaron Seeley has had a terrific start to the season. Jamie Moyer. That is hard hit into left field off the bat of Kent and into the glove of Ramirez. 2 up, 2 down, and down to Steve Lyons in the National League dugout.
I'm with Randy Johnson. Randy, 8 times you've been here, and another outstanding performance as a starter. Ichiro, the only guy that gets a hit off you. How did he look with you facing him?
Well, I think he was kind of measuring me up. I was measuring him up as far as what he could foul off, and I only threw 2 pitches in the second fastball he hit, and I fell off towards 3rd base, and now I'm going to have to probably work on a little extra PFP now, because as fast as he is, there's no way he can get over there falling off 3rd base.
Now, with the year that you've had so far with the 200 strikeouts already at the break, does the record of Nolan Ryan ever enter your mind?
No, I'm more worried about going out in the way that we're playing right now. I'm more worried about quality starts and striking.
Chan Ho Park is the new pitcher for the National League. He brings his 8-5 record to the hill, and a standing ovation. It will grow as Ripken bats here in the 3rd. The man of 1,000 stances leads off, rips one, goodbye. Ripken homers in his final All-Star game.
did you say, Joe? Goodbye? What a goodbye.
His second All-Star Game home run. And like he did on that September night back in 1995 when he broke Lou Gehrig's Ironman record, he homered in that game. And while they throw a party for the All-Stars and for Cal Ripken Jr. and Tony Gwynn here in Seattle, train whistles blowing in the distance, and Cal Ripken Jr. thrills these fans and thrills baseball once again.
What a moment.
So Chan Ho Park is greeted with a Ripken home run, and the American League is on top 1-0 here in the third inning. Now Rodriguez hits it hard. One hop. Kent to his right. One out. That'll bring in Ichiro, who has one of the 2 American League hits tonight. Let's go down to the dugout and Kevin Kennedy.
Cal, are you sure you want to retire?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was pretty sweet right there. I just wanted to try to get a good pitch and put a good swing on it, and something good happened.
You look like you got pretty good bat speed right there. Seriously, when the fans gave you a standing ovation, what's going through your mind? What kind of emotions are racing through you?
Well, getting a big hit, hitting a home run, having the fans behind you, get you going like nothing else can. So I was running about as fast as I could run around the bases too, by the way.
You didn't have to run too fast. You know, I know you're a real family man. I knew your father. I know you think about him a lot. What will your dad say to you right now tonight, just after this experience?
He'll say, forget about your last at bat and go to the next one.
That's awesome. Cal, that is so awesome. Congratulations, and we'll look forward to seeing you some more tonight.
Thanks, Cal. Thank you.
Okay, Joe, back upstairs.
All right, Kevin, and thank you to Cal for the interview, for the swing, and for the memory here in the third inning of this 72nd All-Star Game as Ripken becomes the oldest player to homer in an All-Star Game. With 2 out, nobody on, Alex Rodriguez is at the plate. During the interview, saw Ichiro nearly beat a high hopper and basically a routine ground ball to the second baseman. 1 ball, 1 strike, 2 out, nobody on. Chan Ho Park trying to get through this third inning. It's 1-2. A-Rod struck out his first time at the front end of a strike him out, steal a base play against Randy Johnson.
In our opening, Joe, we talked about 7 countries being represented tonight. Chan Ho Park, the first Korean player in the major leagues and in the All-Star Game. And Ichiro, the first position player in the All-Star Game.
Rodriguez is gone, and so are the American Leaguers, but not before Cal Ripken Jr., baseball's Iron Man. 2,632 consecutive games played, and a home run in the 72nd All-Star Game in Seattle. This live view is courtesy of the Budweiser.com airship and its Eye in the Sky camera. Visit Budweiser.com to track the ship's tour. Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. We thank them for joining us here tonight. And we thank Joe Torre for joining us as he has gone to one of his own. Andy Pettit on the mound. Joe Torre, we know that you can hear us. Not if you can hear us. All right. We are well on our way here in the 4th inning. I know you've been a part of a lot of great moments in baseball history. Describe what it was like to sit in that dugout or stand in that dugout and watch Ripken take the trip around the bases.
Well, you want to get sick to your stomach. I had ORDON, and then I heard the roar, and I looked up, and I saw the ball go out of the ballpark.
You didn't see it?
I didn't see him hit it. I saw the ball go out of the park.
Did Frank see it?
I hope so. Everybody else saw it. All I heard was Mel Stottlemyre saying, "Get out of here."
That's foul. The count 0-2.
Joe, that was a nice moment in the first inning when A-Rod went over and played third and moved Cal to shortstop. That was A-Rod's idea, right?
Yeah, A-Rod called me, I guess it was on Thursday, I believe it was. Last Thursday, called me after a ball game and asked me what I thought of the idea, and I thought it was dynamite as soon as he told me.
0-2 the count on Gonzalez. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Did you know you're undefeated as a manager in All-Star Game play, Joe?
Of course I know that. That's easy to know. You can't. I can count to 3.
You like your chances tonight, Joe?
Excuse me?
You like your chances tonight?
Well, right now I do. As long as those shadows stay like that, I'm fine.
You went through some heat here in Seattle, around the world of baseball, for selecting the Yankee reserves. You ended up adding a couple of Seattle Mariners to the list, and it seems like all is quiet right now with the makeup of your team.
That was politically correct. You know, I knew I was getting. In fact, I took the heat in New York. I thought I was going to take it in Seattle. I took mainly the heat in New York, and then I knew there was a way I had to put a tourniquet on this thing, and picking especially my man Nelly, and then Mike Cameron, who was thrilled to death to be out there.
Gonzalez gets a base hit into right field, and the National League has its first hit. We just saw a shot of Don Zimmer. Can you put into words what Don Zimmer has meant sitting next to you on the bench for this incredible run since 1996?
I can't. He's been so good. You know, today we're into technology. You know, we have computers, we have stopwatches now to time the pitchers.
I'm talking to you in the dugout, and that's technology for you.
Yeah, that's right. And then all of a sudden, Zim looks at the pitcher and he said, "We can steal on this guy." You know, he has nothing in his hands other than, you know, obviously his hands. And he's just talking about, he sees the game. I mean, he's got the computer in his head, and we're constantly talking about situations, and he has been dynamite for me.
Speaking of technology, Joe, seated to Don Zimmer's right, Frank Torrey. And technology has kept him alive over the last 5 years.
Well, we have my brother, and I'll tell you, I can't be more thankful. And he was thrilled when it was suggested to me about taking him, and then I checked with the Major League office, and they said, "Fine, you're right. You know, open heart surgery, getting a new heart in '96, and you know, he still does his exercises. He's still able to stand at the gambling tables in Las Vegas without having a letdown."
Helton pops it up to the third baseman, Ripken. Would it be fair to say, Joe, that Frank has been somewhat of a father figure to you over the years?
Well, there's no question. You know, I know why Bobby Valentine took Lasorda. He meant a lot to his career, and not only professionally but personally. And Frank fit that same description for me. He was a father figure. He was my hero figure. And anytime I, you know, had some good newspaper clippings written about me, if he didn't concur with those, his word is what really counted with me.
1 on, 1 out for Barry Bonds. Bonds at the plate. He bounced back to the pitcher, Roger Clemens, his first time up. 39 home runs. And the tying run is on at first with 1 out here in the 4th inning. 0-2. You know what's unique, Joe, is seeing so much of Frank, but not hearing anything from Frank.
Well, he lets you hear it, doesn't he?
Well, why don't you walk over there at some point and have a seat next to your brother, and maybe he can chime in a little bit.
You want me to do that? I'll find him.
All right.
Where'd he go?
He's behind you.
He's behind me?
He's always been behind you.
Oh, well, here's coming up now. He must have read your lips.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
We're talking upstairs, brother. So they want some of your input.
Just remind him that we're live on national television.
You're live, so bleep yourself.
Make a good pitch. Can Pettit do it? He misses down and away. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
I'll ask Zimmer what I should do.
See, that's a good bench coach, right?
Look at that triumvirate right there.
There's
Zimmer,
my man Zim.
Torrey, and Torrey.
Live right now.
Here's a 2-2. Zim was just informed that this was live.
I'm going to get in between these two now. This ought to be really entertaining. Yeah. We're live, Pops.
I think we ought to strike this guy out.
I think we ought to strike this guy out.
And punch through the man.
How pedestrian is this? Boy, I'll tell you, you got the least color out of Zimmer right now.
3 balls, 2 strikes. Andy Pettit trying to get around a leadoff hit by Luis Gonzalez. Bonds is gone, and that's the second out.
Wouldn't go.
Now I know why you've hung around this game for as long as you have.
There you go. He wanted a strikeout, Joe Torre, and he gets a strikeout. Is that the Yankee magic right there?
Well, yeah. If you wish hard enough, it'll come true, you know.
It's that lift Don's cap. Would you mind? Can I see the Zimmer Dome?
Sure. You want to do that?
Yeah.
There it is. How's that?
That's what Derek Jeter rubs
He
before
likes
every
to
game,
rub it
right?
like that. That's it.
Let me tell you something. We got a ball game.
Oh, you hear him? You hear him? He says we got a ball game. Oh, you got to be a little more serious about that.
That's right. Check on the runner at first, and Andy Pettitte, who's got one of the best pickoff moves in baseball, just reminded Luis Gonzalez that he better pay attention. Over at first is Sammy Sosa, digs his way into the batter's box. Joe, we'll check with you later. Thanks for your time.
All right, guys.
Joe Torre, Frank Torre, Don Zimmer. 1 on, 2 out. Sammy Sosa at the plate. 0-1.
It's almost not fair to combine Andy Pettitte and Ivan Rodriguez behind the plate. Talk about a lethal combination to steal against. Pettitte with that great move to first base, and Rodriguez with that cannon for an arm. Just forget about it. Play it like it's a softball league. Stay on the bag until he pitches.
You start to look at the numbers of Andy Pettitte. The 9-4 record. The ERA just creeped over the 3 mark his last time out. He's at 3.04. He and Clemens, 2 of the first 3 pitchers for the American League, as Sosa fouls it away. Still 0-2. While we have a second, the Radio Shack trivia question. Cal Ripken Jr. played in his first All-Star game at Comiskey Park 18 years ago. Who were the other 3 active 1983 All-Stars? That's the Radio Shack trivia question. Radio Shack, you've got questions, we've got answers. We tried to get this earlier in the day. Tim and I got none of them. No, you got 1.
Maybe 1. Yeah.
You got 1.
Yeah.
Still 0-2 on Sosa. Sammy Sosa, part of the first place Chicago Cubs with a 3-game lead over the fast charging Houston Astros. Watch out for the Astros. Magglio Ordonez is taken over in left field. Manny Ramirez is finished, and Mike Cameron is taken over in center, moving Ichiro over to right, and that means that Juan Gonzalez is finished for the rest of the night. 0-2 the count on Sosa. Runner at first, 2 out. 1-0. The American League leads it in the 4th inning. And a bouncer to A-Rod. Tricky hop. Good throw, and the inning is over. Sosa is 0 for 2. Pretty good combination there. And the Yankee changes for the National League. Moises Alou of the Houston Astros takes over in right field. Ryan Klesko, having a solid year with San Diego, is at first base. He says redundantly in an All-Star game. And John Burkett, the right-hander of the Atlanta Braves, is the new pitcher. The 2nd best ERA in the National League, second only to his teammate Greg Maddux.
John has said that he's learned a lot from Maddux. He's learned a lot from Tommy Glavine. He's even learned a lot from John Smoltz. Those 3 guys have carried the Atlanta Braves to a ton of wins in the 1990s. John Burkett's 2nd All-Star game. His last was as a member of the Giants in '93.
Magglio Ordonez of the Chicago White Sox is first up. First at bat for Magglio, who has established himself as a major league cleanup hitter, a bona fide major league cleanup hitter. Looking for some help in that Chicago White Sox lineup. Lost Frank Thomas early for the season. He will not come back this season. Okay, Tim, that's your turn. Little clunker up the middle, and to his left, Aurelia takes care of Ordonez, 1 away. Before you explain what's written on John Burkett's hat, we'll give you the Radio Shack trivia question. Cal Ripken Jr. played in his first All-Star game at Comiskey Park 18 years ago. Who are the other 3 active 1983 All-Stars? Radio Shack answer: Ricky Henderson, Jesse Orosco, and Tim Raines. Radio Shack, you've got questions, we've got answers, and Tim and I combined for 1 of the 3 on that answer.
It was Jesse Orosco, who made the All-Star team as a member of the Mets in '83.
Here's Brett Boone, second at bat for Boone, who popped up his first time up. To the third baseman, Chipper Jones has to hurry, and he gets Boone by a step. 2 up, 2 down, and John Burkett doing what he has done all season for Atlanta. Burkett, a guy who was released by Tampa Bay in March of 2000. And he is a real credit to Leo Mazzoni and the job that he does as the pitching coach for the Atlanta Braves. What a weapon the Atlanta Braves have in Leo Mazzoni. They have had one reclamation project after another, and he knows what to do with them.
He's not the best pitching coach in the game. He is certainly among the top 3 or 4.
That's a strike right down the middle to Cameron. Mike Cameron, a late addition, filling in for his friend Greg Vaughn. The two became friends in Cincinnati. Both have moved on. Cameron, a big part of the Ken Griffey Jr. trade prior to last year. Breaking ball stays inside. 1 ball, 1 strike.
I think the 3 names on John Burkett's cap are Max, Bud, and Avery.
Reed.
Oh, Reed. Okay.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Maybe giving a shout out to the commissioner, but it doesn't say Bud. It says Reed.
Well, you tell me to read them, then I read them, and you rip me.
Rip.
No, I know. No, I.
2 out, nobody on. 1 ball, 2 strikes, and Cameron is gone. John Burkett. What a story. Tim and I will repair our relationship as we go to the 5th. All-Star Faces, All-Star Game, 1-0 American League. Line, Steve.
All right, Joe, thank you very much. I'm with John Burkett. And John, before you came into pitch, you actually caught the home run ball of Cal Ripken Jr. What did you do with the ball?
I gave it to Dave Valley down there. I think he's friends with Cal, so he's going to give it to him after the game, I believe.
We hope he gets it back, because otherwise, you know, what he's worth quite a bit of money, don't you think?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, it was a good shot. I thought it was going to hit me first. So.
I know you love the bull. Any 300 games lately?
1 last year. Yeah, 1 last offseason.
I don't know. You wanted to say hello to somebody.
Yeah, I got my kids at the beach at Perdido Keys and my family down there. Max, Avery, and Reed, hi, and I'll watch the weather. All right.
All right, John. Thank you very much. All right, let's go back to you guys.
All right, Steve, and thanks to John Burkett, who just pitched a perfect 4th inning. Finished for the rest of the night. We're getting into the time of the game where it's a pitcher for 1 inning at most, as Joe Mays takes over. One of the very unique stories of the American League with that Minnesota ball club. And you talked to Joe Torre early on in the season. You said, who do you like this year in the American League? And the Minnesota Twins was the first team name out of his mouth.
In the 2nd week of April, Joe Torre saying the Minnesota Twins was going to be a very surprising ball club. And right now, the Minnesota Twins 5 games in front of the Cleveland Indians, the largest margin they've had all year long. Tom Kelly and his crew.
Where does Mike Piazza rank among all-time catchers? Look at that swing. Hall of Fame numbers through 9 full seasons. Piazza's numbers are at the top, and we'll go back to that and give you more of a chance to digest that. Look at the average compared to the other 4. Those are Hall of Famers on that list. The RBIs, the home runs. There's a compelling argument for him to stay behind the plate as a catcher. There's also another compelling argument for him to move, and that is his 33rd birthday coming up. It is rare. Fisk is one of the few exceptions to the rule. Once you get to that age, 33 and beyond, the production starts to tail off, and this has been a below average year for Mike Piazza so far.
Bob Boone is another example of a guy who has longevity, but Bob was not, of course, the offensive player that Fisk and Piazza are.
Spoiling that pitch and fouling it down the right side to keep it 1-2.
I think now's the time. I think Mike Piazza will move from behind the plate, and the Mets will do it judiciously during the offseason. I think now's the time. The combination of everything.
Well, who better to talk to than the manager for the National League and the manager for the New York Mets, Bobby Valentine, as Piazza rolls one over to third. Ripken. 2 out. Let's go down to Bobby Valentine. Bobby, hopefully you can hear us. Is there a plan in place to move Piazza from behind the plate?
I've never talked to Michael about that, that's for sure. I've heard enough about it in New York, no doubt about that. And there's been a little internal discussion just here, what if, but there's no plan for that.
Thanks,
all right, Michael, great job. Thank you, bro.
So as Piazza makes his way into the dugout, Chipper Jones bats with 2 out, nobody on. Logically speaking, though, Bobby, you've got a weapon there, a big weapon in your lineup, whose biggest asset to your club is what he does with the bat. And if he continues to get beat up behind the plate, it would only make sense to move him away from the catching position, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, we hear that. You know, the only problem we have then, you move him out, then you have to replace the guy that he's replacing behind the plate with some offense that will be comparable, and I haven't seen that come to pass yet.
That's a strike to Chipper Jones. Any thought now with the toe injury, at least for a short while, moving him away from the plate? I know he's catching here in the All-Star game, but moving him defensively once the second half starts?
No, Mike's really, when he's been in Met uniform, he's never taken a ground ball or a fly ball.
Here's a fly ball into left off the bat of Chipper Jones into the glove of Magglio Ordonez. Bobby, thanks. We'll check back. That'll do it for the top of the 5th inning. Piazza 0 for 2 and like 1,000 feet up. Baseball fans, this bun's for you. Number of changes as the National Leaguers take the field in the bottom of the 5th. Lance Berkman is in the game and now in center field. Albert Pujols, the 21-year-old rookie from St. Louis who played A-ball last year, is in the game at third base. The new catcher is Charles Johnson, takes over for Piazza. The new pitcher, left-hander Mike Hampton, who inked a huge contract in the offseason with the Colorado Rockies, and he has not disappointed the Rockies one bit. In fact, as good as he's been on the mound, he's been about that good with a bat in his hands.
With 6 home runs to his credit.
Here is Olrud. And there is strike 1. Understand Pujols will bat 6th. Johnson 7th. Berkman 1st. No balls, 1 strike. Olrud, who's 0 for 1. Grounds it foul 0-2. Where did the New York Mets miss the presence of Mike Hampton?
We talked about John Olrud earlier. I think a lot of times when a team's in the World Series, it obscures your needs. Mike Hampton, the Mets made a big offer to Hampton, somewhere in the neighborhood of $105 million.
Kent to his right, backhanded play, wild throw into the dugout, and Olrud will head down to second base. He's there with nobody out.
John does not get a lot of infield hits. He is not a fast runner. Jeff Kent fielded it well, and then overthrows Ryan Klesko, and Olrud has a rare base hit and an error on Jeff Kent. Actually, an error all the way. No hit given. Yep.
E4, so no hit and error on the throw. And Olrud is finished. Jason Giambi takes over at second base here in the 5th inning. And Edgar Martinez is at the plate. See if the American League can push a run across. The runner at second, nobody out. Cal Ripken Jr. waiting to hit next. Martinez, a late swing. It's 0-2. Edgar Martinez struck out his first time, 5th in the American League with 67 RBIs. The Iron Man waiting to hit next. The Iron Man, Cal Ripken Jr., counting for the game's only run with his 3rd inning home run. Here's an 0-2. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Edgar, obviously one of the game's great hitters still. 38 years old. He is at the top or near the top every category among designated hitters since the DH was instituted in 1973. 1st in average, 1st in doubles, 3rd in hits, tied for 4th in RBIs, 5th in home runs. Guy that's easily overlooked but it's a mistake to do that with Edgar Martinez in this Seattle lineup.
He's overlooked by everybody but American League pitchers.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Runner at second, nobody out. Martinez shatters his bat in the hole. It's really a good play, and Martinez does not advance the runner. A streak that began on May 30th, 1982, and ended on September 19th, 1998. And you start to see some of the injuries, near injuries, and some of the pain that Cal Ripken went through during the streak.
And he played, and he played, and he played for over 14 years every single day.
The Oriole way, the Ripken way. And here for his second at bat with flashbulbs popping around the park. Ball 1 low and away. Ripken, his first time up, ripped one over the wall and left.
This might be his last at bat.
One ball, no strikes, and Ripken just got a piece of it. 1 ball, 1 strike. A special presentation will be made a little later to Cal Ripken Jr. He didn't know that A-Rod was going to tell him to go play short at the start of the game. And Ripken will be honored later in this game, as will Tony Gwynn on the field here in Seattle. Giambi at second, 1 out. Hampton will try to show the world how good he can be after that leadoff error on the ball hit by Olrud after getting Martinez on a shattered bat ground ball to short. It's up to Ripken or Rodriguez. Drive home Giambi. 2 balls and a strike. 2-2.
You mentioned Cal Ripken, the man of 1,000 stances. It'll be interesting when his bronze statue goes outside of Camden Yards, which stance he'll use.
Curt Schilling, who is probably the resident historian among current major leaguers, somebody who respects the history of this game, recording it all. Another one to the shortstop, another one for Aurelia, and the second out. And Hampton is 2/3 of the way through pitching around a leadoff error, but he's got a tough out coming up in Ivan Rodriguez. Rodriguez bounced out to second his first time up. So the Gold Glover, 2-time MVP, takes his seat, and the MVP from 1999 digs his way into the batter's box. Rodriguez, runner at second, 2 out. Ball 1. Mike Hampton, who played high school football as a quarterback, a defensive back, recruited to play collegiately. Has some big programs, Florida State one of them. Has that bulldog type mentality, and he is bearing down and trying to get around that leadoff error. He's picked up 2 outs. Giambi is still at second, and now it's a 1 ball, 1 strike count on Ivan Rodriguez. Ichiro waits on deck. American League on top 1-0, and that's strike 2. Mike Hampton decided to head to Denver, Colorado, as Ichiro has proven that position players can not only come here and succeed in the major leagues here in the States and in Canada. Mike Hampton's trying to prove that free agent pitchers can go to Colorado and succeed. That's up the middle, and Rodriguez a 2-out hit. Here comes Giambi. Throw not made as Berkman gets it back into the infield. A 2-out RBI hit for Ivan Rodriguez. 2-0 American League. A live shot. Tokyo watching a big screen Ikebukuro Station Times Square of Tokyo, watching Ichiro, who won 7 consecutive batting titles with the Oryx Blue Wave in Japan. And here he is with a .347 average at the midway point his first year with the Seattle Mariners. Pacific League All-Star. 1 on, 2 out, and 0-2 the count.
Ichiro's nickname in Japan is Elvis. He only weighs 165 pounds, and his teammates on the Mariners cannot believe how much he eats.
So obviously Elvis in his early years.
Right. Not in the early to mid 70s.
No.
0-2
the count, runner at first, 2 out. The opposite way, and Pujols takes care of Ichiro. Let's go back to 1981. Cal Ripken Jr. with the Rochester Red Wings had modest aspirations.
I'm learning the pitchers. I'm learning how to hit the ball to right field, how to hit the ball to left field, and learn how to look for a certain pitch in a certain situation. So all of that, is helping me become a better ball player, and maybe someday soon I'll be in a big league uniform.
Welcome back to Seattle. 72nd Major League Baseball All-Star Game. A look at Cal Ripken Jr. and now we visit with Tom Hutler.
Now entering the game at third base from the Anaheim Angels, number 25 Troy Glaus replacing Cal Ripken Jr. We direct your attention to the area near third base for a special presentation with Cal Ripken Jr., Tony Gwynn, and Commissioner Bud Selig.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Commissioner's Historic Award was created in 1998 and is presented to a player who sets a record of historic significance or whose body of work is in itself of historic significance. Tonight, it is truly an honor for me to present the award to 2 of the greatest players of this generation, and 2 men who leave a magnificent legacy of leadership and community involvement for the next generation. To Cal Ripken for breaking Lou Gehrig's consecutive game streak. For setting a new record at 2,632 consecutive games. And for being one of only 7 players to have more than 3,000 hits and 400 runs batted in. Congratulations, Cal. I want to correct the record. It's 400 home runs.
I just want to say it's been a great and fantastic run. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
And to Tony Gwynn. who has a lifetime batting average of 338. Which ranks 18th on the all-time list, whose 8 batting titles ties Hannes Wagner for the most in National League history. And who has set a National League record by hitting 300 or better for 18 consecutive seasons. Congratulations, Tony.
Thank you. These last 20 years have been the greatest ride I think you can ever be on. And seeing Cal hit that home run, I know I'm on the National League side, but that was pretty impressive. And so, in my final All Star game, I'd just like to say thank you. It's been great.
Tony, Cal, on behalf of all the players and everybody gathered here, of people in the stands and people all over the world, thank you not only for your on-the-field activity, but for the human beings that you've been and the wonderful, wonderful legacy that you've left our great game. Thank you very much.
The end of that, Tim McCarver, probably the most important part of it all. The legacies that they leave and what they have meant to this game in their individual ways. Cal Ripken Jr. breaking that streak in '95 after the end of '94. The strike, no postseason, no World Series that year. He helped baseball start to bridge the gap back toward the fans with that lap around the warning track. What he did for baseball in '95, plus the exciting postseason that year. But I look at that guy, Cal Ripken Jr., as one of the big reasons why baseball was able to get back so many of the fans. Some still haven't come back, but so many of the fans back to the game after that disastrous end in 1994. And now you go to Tony Gwynn. He's not in the game, but we certainly cannot slight one of the all-time true gentlemen in this game and one of the best hitters. Tim, you know better than I. Unbelievable hand-eye coordination.
Best since Ted Williams, a 338 career average, as Commissioner Selig said. A guy who carries himself as gracefully off the field as he does on it.
He wanted to come here, be a part of this. He was asked if he wanted to take a swing, take an at-bat. No, I just want to go there and soak it all in. Talking about a great athlete who also played basketball at San Diego State. 77 to 81. See the athletic moves by Tony Gwynn, and then you know he can do this. In fact, his career plan takes him back to San Diego State. Although it has not been formally announced, he certainly has not been secretive about the fact that he wants to go back to San Diego State as the head baseball coach there. And that team plays in the stadium named after Tony Gwynn. And from, I know, all of us on the media side and all of us on the fan side, thank you to Tony Gwynn for being a wonderful person and a Hall of Fame player. That is fair down the right field line as Quantrill brought home a 2-0 pitch, and Kent will try to turn that into a double. And he does, a leadoff double. We go down to Kevin Kennedy, who's in the American League dugout. Kevin?
Well, I have Cal Ripken Jr. and A-Rod. And Cal, you revolutionized the position of shortstop. And we've got the guy that was your idol growing up. Take me through what Earl Weaver told you many years ago, why he moved you from third to short. What did he say to you?
I don't think he even told me why. No, he thought I could handle it, go to the middle of the diamond, you know, have a bigger presence in the middle, just take charge in the middle of the diamond. I mean, it wasn't much more than I could hit in the middle of the lineup. I could give you some offense, but I could also give you some defense. He really wanted me to go out there and take charge in the middle.
Alex, you were a kid growing up in Miami. How much did you see of Cal, and how old were you when you first saw him?
Well, I saw him ever since I've been alive, I think. He's been in the league 20 years, so I'm 25, so there's not too much room there to mess around with. But it's been a thrill for me to watch, and it's really a dream come true, just like many kids all over the world. He was their favorite player, and to me to do this is just one of the nicest things I've done in my career.
What did you say to Cal over at third base to begin the ball game?
I was just teasing him. I said, hey, you have to go to shortstop. And he said, I don't want to play shortstop. I said, well, Skip's over there, and he's telling you to go over there, so now you have to follow orders. And he said, come on, why would you put me through this? So it was great.
All right, thanks, guys. Let's go back upstairs.
All right, Kevin, thank you, and thanks to Cal and to Alex Rodriguez. Obviously, as Kevin talked about, it showed a big man could play the shortstop position, and fitting that Weaver would do it, a guy who lived for that 3-run homer. They have a shortstop pound the ball out of the park. Aurelia grounds to third. Troy Gloss from the Angels takes care of Aurelia. Now to the other side, the National League dugout, and Steve Lyons.
Well, Joe, certainly one of the guys that needs no introduction. Tony Gwynn is here with me. And Tony, when we force you to take a look back at your career, the tremendous times that you've had, and then an award like that happens, how do you keep it together?
I don't know. To be honest with you, you know, Bud Selig came down and yesterday and was telling me, you know, that something was going to go on. They didn't tell me what, but whatever it was, he was struggling with it. And so standing here waiting to find out, you know, exactly what it was going to be. I had no idea they were going to stop the game, and both sides were going to come over and, you know, shake your hand, give you a hug, tell you you've done wonderful. I mean, you know, it's hard. So,
you know, we've heard a lot about how much you've been teaching and really imparting your knowledge, much more so at this All-Star game to all the other guys that are here than you had in the past. Do you really have the idea that you wanted to teach a little bit more here this time?
You know, not really. I think since I announced that I was going to retire, I think people realize what I want to do when I'm through. I'd like to coach. And I was telling Lance Berkman, I said, man, you better pick my brain now because we play you guys right after the break, and you're not going to get a chance to again. So, you know, I just tried to make a point of just, you know, going to the young guys, congratulating them for making the All-Star team and letting them know that, you know, they can be as great as they want to be. They just have to know they're going to work at it.
As you do look around this locker room and this dugout here, who are the guys that can carry the torch the way you have?
Oh, there's a lot of guys. A lot of guys, you know, I mean, Lance Berkman comes to mind for me just because, you know, I was there in the game when he started, when he got his first big league, his first big league hit, his first big league home run, and to see where he's progressed from a couple of years ago to where he is today, you know, to me that's how you become a bona fide major league player. You just got to kind of roll up your sleeves and say, hey, I'm going to do the work that I need to do. And he's a great example of that. And then you have a guy like Johnny Rollins who comes in, this is his first All-Star game, and talking to him, you think he'd been here for 8 or 9 years. Very confident, very self-assured with himself, but realizing that he's got a lot of work to do, and he's not afraid. You're not afraid to do it. And so, from my standpoint, I think we got a lot of things going in the right direction in this game.
As we get the base hit right there, one more question to you, Tony. As you look around here and you take a deep breath, you can catch up with yourself again because there's still a long way to go for you, isn't there?
You're right. You're right. And, you know, when things like this happen, it just kind of lets you know what you're going to be in store for. And, you know, I held up okay this time, but I know in September you're not. And why hide it? You know, there's no reason to hide it. I'm pretty proud of what I've been able to accomplish, but when it comes to letting people know, it's tough.
Well, everybody around here is certainly proud to have been a part of it as well. Tony, thank you very much. Let's go back to you, Joe.
All right, thanks to Tony. Berkman was listening. He got a base hit the opposite way, and all of a sudden the tying runs are on here in the 6th inning. Quantrill's gone. At the end of the season, Gwynn will be gone. An All-Star game send-off for Tony Gwynn. Wonderful person. We're happy he's here in Seattle. Here for the entire racing world. Dale losing his father at the Daytona 500, and Dale coming off a victory in Daytona this past weekend. Driving the number 8 Budweiser car as Klesko hits it off the end of the bat. Gets the sacrifice fly into center as he takes the first pitch from Mike Stanton and puts the National League on the board. A leadoff double by Kenton. He scores on a sac fly by Klesko here in the 6th inning, and the lead has been cut in half.
Mike Stanton, of course, of the Yankees, one of the 6 players selected, and perhaps the most zealous in accepting the role given to him by Joe Torre. His first All-Star selection, and he said that being selected on the All-Star team was the one thing that could make him lose his appetite.
Well, you're looking at as valuable a player as the Yankees have, and I mean anybody on that team.
He's the most underrated reliever in baseball, in my view, Mike Stanton.
Definitely deserving of this All-Star appearance, as is Vladimir Guerrero, one of the game's best young players. He has done things before the age of 25 that few have ever even dreamed of. 1 ball, 1 strike. This guy's got a big strike zone, his own big strike zone. He is signed through 2003. At some point, if it's not Montreal, somebody's going to get their hands on one of the most special players to come along in a long time.
If Montreal is still around in 2003.
Runner at first, 2 out, and 1 ball, 2 strikes on Vladimir Guerrero, who's batting for Barry Bonds. Hall of Fame starts, 300 average, 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, 3 consecutive seasons doing that under the age of 25. Joining Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio, and Jimmy Fox. A Hall of Fame list. He's replacing a Hall of Famer here in the 6th inning. Bonds done for the rest of the night as Guerrero spoils the pitch, flies it down the right field line, and it slices foul and goes out of play.
And that's an example of Guerrero in that strike zone. His arms are very, very long for a man who is 6'3". Watch him reach off the plate and make contact on the fat part of the bat.
He got one question after another about the supposed new strike zone for this season. He got the questions in spring training. He said, I don't care where they're going to call strikes.
Right,
what do I care?
Exactly.
I see it and I swing at it. Alex Rodriguez talking to his former manager Lou Piniella. They had Berkman, the runner at first, frozen, but the throw handcuffed Giambi, and the count's still 1-2 on Vladimir Guerrero.
That's the problem with the All-Star game. The new first baseman, if you're not a teammate of the pitcher, he can pick you off as well as the runner.
Yeah. So Stanton has come on. You got Klesko on the sac fly. It's a 2-1 game, and Guerrero takes ball 2, 2-2. So both managers are rolling right through their benches, right through their bullpens. Now you've got a 1-run game in the 6th inning. There isn't going to be much left in the extra innings if this game should go there. Oh, shattered bat, and it catches Tommy Lasorda, who's coaching in the third base coach's box. He pops right back up, and he's all right.
Tommy saying, am I all right? Of course I'm all right. Didn't hurt me. Tommy landing right on his gold medal.
Tommy Lasorda here. An invitation from Bobby Valentine. And he managed the gold medal winning team at the recent Summer Olympics in Australia. He got a 9-8, a 9-8, and a 9-7 from the judges for that rollover. Don Zimmer saying, what's he doing out there? And now that he's out there, why is he not paying attention? But his score, you throw out the lowest and the highest, he gets a 9-8 for this. And thank goodness that he's all right. It was the Italian judge that gave him the 9-7. I think we better close those mics down there, as this game has come to a screeching halt. Either they're checking on Lasorda, or Guerrero can't find a batter and needs a new tape job on his fingers.
Oh, sometimes that bat was broken so far down on the handle that I think Guerrero could have cut his fingers. He is left with a stake in his hands. And perhaps he ended up injuring his fingers. I wouldn't imagine seriously, and he's being taped up by the trainer. And thankful that Tommy's all right. All right.
Well, that'll be the memory of this All-Star game for Don Zimmer.
Chest protector, only appropriate.
Oh, one serious and one, and again, thank goodness, comical moment, certainly to remember here in the first 5+ innings in Seattle. Now, Tommy Lasorda and his best friend's son, Mike Piazza, have come dangerously close to being injured by a shattered bat. Tommy will wake up tomorrow and say, "Wonder why I'm sore." He'll be reminded on every highlight show from now until the end of time. The dugout wizard, Johnny Bench's baseball bunch. Took a seat. He's okay. The game continues. Bottom of the 6th. It's a 1-run game. Changes, bottom of the 6th inning, 2-1. The American League leads it. Moises Alou is now in the game in left field as he shifts over from right where Vladimir Guerrero takes over after batting for Bonds. Jimmy Rollins, the lone representative from the Phillies, is in the game, and at shortstop the new pitcher is Jon Lieber, tied for second in the National League in wins, and with the second best team ERA, the Chicago Cubs fewest home runs allowed. Pitching is putting them on top of the National League Central Division as Derek Jeter bats for his buddy Alex Rodriguez. Rodriguez, while he was in there 0 for 2 with a pair of strikeouts, and the count 2-0 from Jon Lieber. How about this? The Cubs pitching this season, strikeouts first, opponents average tied for first, fewest home runs allowed, 77 in hitter-friendly Wrigley Field, and the last time the Cubs led the National League in ERA, 1945, as Jeter hits one to center. Back is Berkman at the wall. Jeter goes deep. 3-1 American lead. Last year's All-Star Game MVP in his first at bat in 2001 hits it to the deepest part of the park.
Also the most valuable player in the World Series last year, and American League pitchers do not like the fact that Derek Jeter is heating up for the Yankees. I mean, deep to center field. This one of the tougher ballparks in the major leagues to hit a ball out of. Jeter finds the deepest part over the 405 sign in center field.
First All-Star Game home run for Derek Jeter. One of the few guys that, if you really examine their season, you could question their selection. But you cannot question the star power of Jeter as Ordonez goes deep to right. Goodbye, right center field. Ordonez back-to-back for the American League, and it's 4-1. So after detailing that the Cubs pitching staff has allowed the fewest home runs in the league, Jeter and Ordonez go back-to-back. Fifth time that's happened in All-Star Game play. And now Roberto Alomar, the American League's leading hitter, representing the Cleveland Indians, hitting .358, digs in as he bats for Brett Boone. Leading the league in hitting. The Indians have not had a player lead the American League in hitting for 46 years as Alou takes one away out in left field, and we go down to the National League dugout. Thankfully, a healthy Tommy Lasorda standing by with Steve Lyons.
That's right, guys. And Tommy, you're no stranger to that third base box down there, but boy, what was going on out there?
Well, you know, I've coached third base many, many years, never been hit. But I was watching the ball. I saw the ball go, and I'm supposed to keep my eye on that ball. And when the ball went down there, I never saw that black bat coming at me because I was watching the ball.
You know, your body took a bad hop when you hit the ground.
Well, listen, let me tell you something. I'm not quite as agile as I used to be now. You got to remember, I'll be 74 in a couple months.
Well, I'll tell you, if the American League could show you anything, they'd send Zim out there, wouldn't they?
He won't come out. He will not come out, believe me.
Scared men can't win.
Oh, yeah. I might go out there. I love to coach third base. I got to run that inning. I'm going to go back out and get a couple more.
There you go. Go on back out there and do it again. Thanks, Tommy. Joe, let's go back to you.
All right, Steve. 2 balls and a strike with 1 out, nobody on. 2 runs home for the American League as Mike Cameron takes it high, and Lieber is having the roughest inning of any pitcher so far. Cameron 0 for 1 since entering back in the 4th inning. 3 balls and a strike, now full count.
With the Chicago White Sox 13 games behind the Minnesota Twins and the Cubs in first place, some solace for White Sox fans with Ordonez homering off Lieber, a South Sider off a North Sider.
3-2 pitch. Cameron pops it foul and out of play. Three balls, 2 strikes. Cameron off the end of the bat. He'll drop it into left center field for a base hit. Cameron is going to test a Lou. Poor throw by a Lou, and that's a hustling double for Mike Cameron. He ran right in the face of Moises Alou.
Flying around first base. Breezes over the bag, running hard all the way, giving himself a chance to take the extra base. Wide throw because it's a hurried throw.
American League bench likes the hustle. And that puts a runner in scoring position. Cameron at second with 1 out for Jason Giambi, his first at bat. And it is going to be really interesting to see where Jason Giambi ends this season. Will it be wearing that uniform? Or will it be wearing the uniform of Yankees or the Braves or some other team that needs to add a bat? All teams seem to be interested, the big market, big money teams, and Jason Giambi could certainly make the difference on one of those clubs down the stretch and in the postseason. 2 balls, no strikes.
And that is not to say that the Oakland Athletics will not reach the postseason. The Athletics sweeping the Arizona Diamondbacks over the weekend, giving up only 2 runs to Bob Brenly's group.
2 balls, no strikes. Brenly said after that series, if we played a 4th game, we'd probably face Koufax. Counts 3-0 on Giambi. That's on the outside corner, 3-1. The report is that Fred McGriff has been traded to the Chicago Cubs today from the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. The hang-up is McGriff has a no-trade clause, and we understand needs to get worked through. To the left side, and Rollins shows off that good arm. Giambi's gone. He grounds out 6-3, and Cameron's at third, 2 out. So if the Cubs pick up McGriff, McGriff seemed to be at least an option for the Atlanta Braves at first base. Galarraga's still out there, evidently, if they want to go get him. And Giambi has got to be at the top of the list if they can figure out a way to make a trade with Oakland, if indeed Oakland wants to give up Jason Giambi. And of course, that's a big if, as Tony Clark from the Detroit Tigers digs in, and he bats for Edgar Martinez, the DH. Comes up empty, strike 1.
There are about 3 weeks left before the trading deadline on July 31st. And a lot will be determined about how Oakland plays immediately after the All-Star break. to whether they will be in it in the wild card chase or not.
Wear the MLB Authentic Collection All-Star Game 2001 Workout Day jersey of your favorite Major League Baseball All-Star. Order now at MLB.com. 0-2. Clark takes a ball. Here's another guy that is evidently out there if some team wants him. Tigers struggling again this season. Guy who's got a bad back, trying to fight his way through that. Out in front. Count stays 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Tony must feel like he's home. His brother Greg plays basketball for the University of Washington. He's a Husky forward, literally.
Runner at third, 2 out, a ball and 2 strikes on Clark. Lieber is finally through the 6th inning. But he doesn't get through the 6th inning before Derek Jeter in his first at bat and Ordonez in his second. They go back to back. It's 4-1 AL. New pitcher for the American League is Jeff Nelson, former Yankee, back with the Seattle Mariners, and a big part of their success out of the bullpen. Nelson takes over for Stanton, who went 2/3 of an inning. Nothing new for him. They got 2 outs, all zeros for Stanton. Bobby Valentine joins us again from the dugout. I know Charlie Huff is talking to you down there.
Okay, we got it covered. Yeah.
I know you're trying to manage as we talk to you, Bobby. I brought it up earlier, and one of the main reasons why you have Tommy Lasorda here with you. He's been very close to you. He managed you in the minor leagues, and I hope people realize what kind of an athlete you were coming out of high school and a top prospect in the Dodger organization. You had that terrible leg injury while with the Angels. I know down in the Dominican, Tommy Lasorda had to pull you into his office and try to tell you the facts of life and say this might not be something you want to continue to pursue. What was that meeting like?
No, that was a factual statement. You know, Tommy was my first manager in baseball, and we never were in a dugout in the major leagues together. And this is our first opportunity. It's been a blessed event. That event was I played about 50 games for him. I wanted someone to tell me the truth, whether I could or I couldn't. And we ordered a pizza, we had a beer, and he said, "Hey, son, I think you better try something other than playing on the field." And his advice was great advice, and I guess I'm here because of that.
Talk about the great ambassadors of the game. We just sent 2 of them away, so to speak, in this All-Star game with a send-off for Tony Gwynn, the send-off for Cal Ripken Jr. And there's no doubt that Tommy Lasorda is on that list of the game's great ambassadors.
Well, worldwide ambassador, there's probably no one more recognizable, and no one loves the game more than Tommy. He sleeps it, eats it, and drinks it. It's been good to him, and he's been great to the game.
Cliff Floyd is on deck, Bobby Valentine, and that was the center of a storm prior to this All-Star game. What have you said to Cliff Floyd, and what's gone on between the 2 of you since he got here to Seattle?
Well, it's a shame that was the center when so many great things are going on. And I said to him the same thing that I said to him in a phone call, how much I respect his ability and, you know, how much I've always pulled for him, and I wanted him to do well. He's finally healthy and he's doing well. And if he misunderstood anything that was in that phone call, then that's regretful, but I'm always pulling for him. The phone call was a personal human thing to tell him that it wasn't personal if he didn't make it. And if he did make it, it was because of his ability. And I told him the same thing when he came in. He smiled, shook my hand, and along with every player in uniform, which has really made my All-Star stint here worthwhile, he thanked me. And I've had tears in some of the guys' eyes. I've met a lot of the parents, and this has been the most memorable event of my life.
3 balls, 2 strikes on Alou leading off, and he pounds one into right.
How about Mike?
Bobby, one more question, then we'll let you go. You sat in your office before the World Series. I think it was Game 3 last year, and you told Tim and myself about Ichiro. You said this guy's one of the 5 best players in the world right now. I know you are not surprised at how Ichiro has taken to this game here with the Seattle Mariners. That's some story, isn't it?
Well, it's a great story for baseball, for his country, and everything that they stand for as far as baseball is concerned. And he's ignited the Mariners, no doubt about that.
You managed over in Japan. Tell me this as we look at video highlights of you managing over in Japan. case could be made that Ichiro coming here signifies a major step for baseball players in the Japanese leagues. On the other hand, you manage a guy, Shinjo, with the New York Mets, who was a good ball player in Japan, certainly not a terrific ball player or a superstar in Japan. What does his success mean to the players over there? You would have to believe some say, well, if Shinjo can go over there and be a big part of the Mets and be a weapon for them, I know I can, and this might open the floodgates, so to speak.
Well, I think that his athletic ability has allowed him to improve every step of the way here in the first 3 months of the season, and I think there's a lot of other very good baseball players with the same kind of athleticism who could come here and make an impact on a team.
Bobby, thanks for your time. We'll let you watch Cliff Floyd.
Come on, Clifford.
1 out, nobody on, no balls, 2 strikes. Floyd with a huge swing. Tim, this is a guy that definitely deserves to be here, Cliff Floyd.
Bobby mentioned that injury. Cliff, when he was a first baseman for the Montreal Expos, was run into by Todd Hundley, who was then the catcher for the New York Mets. Compound fracture of his wrist, his left wrist. Everybody thought that he was through with baseball. That's how serious the injury was, and he has flourished in South Florida.
1 out, nobody on, no balls, 2 strikes, and that's a flare into center for Bernie Williams. 2 out. That'll bring in Albert Pujols, and this is one of the truly amazing stories of Major League Baseball this season. It's only been 1 year. This time last year, this guy was playing in the All Star Game at the Single-A level, playing for Peoria. Got all the way up to Triple-A with Memphis. Was a star for them in the postseason last year, and he has been sensational for the St. Louis Cardinals. One of the really few bright spots for the Cardinals the first half of the season. He is one of the most disciplined hitters to come to the big league level in a long time. Very good 2-strike hitter. Can play a number of positions, and he is strong.
21 years old.
Basically a full year at Single-A last year, goes to spring training, continued to impress Tony La Russa day after day in Jupiter, Florida, and he made the team. And he's not only made the team, he's made the All-Star team as he takes a strike, and he's facing a tough one in Nelson. 1 ball, 2 strikes. MVP of the Midwest League last year. 21 home runs as a rookie for St. Louis. 2 out, nobody on, a ball and 2 strikes. 2-2. On deck, Charles Johnson. Cal Ripken Jr. talks it over with his son. 2 balls, 2 strikes, now 3-2. Very patient.
If all the pitchers in the Midwest League were like Jeff Nelson, Albert would be saying, oh, how I wish I were in Peoria. Jeff is nasty on right-handed hitters.
That's down and in, and Pujols works Nelson for a 2-out walk. So here's a 21-year-old who isn't fazed one bit by the day after day work with the Cardinals. And now here in the All-Star game, patient enough to work a walk out of Jeff Nelson. And here is Charles Johnson, who has been with 4 teams in the last 4 years, still is one of the game's best catchers, and he has added some thump to his swing. 1 on, 2 out, 4-1, American League leading here in the 7th inning. Ball 1.
That Florida team making a move on the first place Philadelphia Phillies. They were 3.5 behind, but then they went into Philadelphia, and Philadelphia swept them 5 games, and that dropped them back to 7.5. But still, a fine young pitching for the Florida Marlins.
Nelson struggling a bit with 2 out. He's 2-0 on Johnson. For the Marlins, 7.5 games out. The Philadelphia Phillies lead the National League East, a game in front of Atlanta. Count 2-1. Cal Ripken getting a chance to share these moments with his son. shaking hands with Ripken in the clubhouse before the game. Mind you just how big this guy is, how strong he is. Johnson, that's a typical swing against Nelson. The count 2-2. This American League crowd, and in particular Seattle Mariner crowd, wanting Nelson to end the top of the 7th inning right now. Off the end of the bat into left field. Ordonez puts it away. Time to stretch. Time to again honor Cal Ripken Jr. An All-Star Game send-off here in Seattle. He's finished for the rest of the night. A look at Puget Sound here in the Pacific Northwest, the Emerald City, and this jewel has been shining all year, and in particular this week. Let's go down to Kevin Kennedy. Kevin.
Okay, Joe, I got Jeff Nelson, and finally, Jeff, you get the All-Star berth that you deserve. What did your former skipper Joe Torre tell you?
Well, it was just I hugged him. A lot of emotions. This is something you never ever dream of, obviously, and to be here in Seattle in your home stadium, this is just unbelievable.
It's all good now between you and Joe?
No, it always has. It's just the media that always said that we weren't, but I've had a great relationship. I owe him a lot. He had to give me the opportunity to win 4 World Series and then put me on an All-Star team. It's something that you look back, as my 10th year in the big leagues, and it's something I'll never forget.
Jeff, you were on the awesome '98 Yankee team. Can you compare that team with what's happening right here this year in 2001?
Same style. I mean, we have 25 guys that go out and compete real hard, and there seems like a different hero every night, just like the '98 team. There's really no superstars. There's 25 guys that love to play the game, go out on the field, expect to win every night, and if we get behind in the later innings, we expect to come back and win. And both teams have done that, and it's just a great atmosphere. I mean, it's a great city. We've had lots of fan support, just like New York, and hopefully we can do what we did in '98.
Okay, Jeff, thanks a lot. Good luck in the second half. Joe?
All right, Kevin. Troy Glass at the plate as Matt Morris takes over for the National League. Lieber went 1 inning, allowed 2 runs on the back-to-back home runs, and Glass pops it into center. Lance Burton. Leadoff man is gone, and a good start to the 7th inning for Matt Morris. Here's tonight's game summary brought to you by Original Coors. Middle inning scoring after that home run by Ripken back in the 3rd inning. 3 home runs in tonight's game for the American League. Jeter, Ordonez, and Ripken. 5th time in All-Star history that players have gone back-to-back. Don Rodriguez, a 2-out RBI single in the 5th. Klesko, a sac fly for the only National League run. Clemens started this game, went 2 innings, and allowed nada. Here's Jorge Posada as Matt Morris deals, and Posada hits it to deep center. Berkman back on the run, won't get there. Extra bases for Posada, and he's content with a 1-out double. And he wants the ball, and I don't blame him.
You can hear him in the background saying, "Can I have that ball?" Derek Jeter was the best man in Posada's wedding down in Puerto Rico. They're the best of friends. So Jeter homers over the center field wall, and Posada short hops the center field wall and then wants the ball, and he'll get it.
And now another Yankee, Bernie Williams, digs in. Nobody hotter right now in the American League than Bernie Williams. For the Yankees, he's reached base in 42 consecutive games via a hit or a walk. Carry that into the second half as Christian Guzman, a former farmhand of the New York Yankees, gets loose in the on-deck circle. Bernie Williams, switch hitting center fielder for the world champs, takes strike 2. It's 0-2 from Morris, who missed the entire '99 season. Tommy John surgery last year. Pitched out of the bullpen for Tony La Russa. This year, he's one of the National League's top starters. Throws harder now than he did before the surgery.
It's remarkable. He's not an exception either.
To the right side, Kent. Good play to his right. Good throw this time, and a terrific play from Jeff Kent. 2 out.
Fine play by Kent. The second play that Jeff has had like this afternoon. The first one was an overthrow, but he finds the target here. Nicely done.
So in the bottom of the 7th, it's a runner at third, 2 out, and Christian Guzman, good player on that carpet in Minnesota. The first place Minnesota Twins digs in, part of the Knobloch trade, along with another All-Star, Eric Milton, who at this point is not scheduled to pitch in tonight's game unless you get into extra innings, according to Joe Torre. That's a strike on the outside corner from Morris. Mr. Triples has a chance to hit over 20 triples, second consecutive season. Tried to hold up, and he's in the hole 0-2. 13 triples so far this season, and 33 over the last 2. Shot at third, 2 out, and Johnson hangs on to the foul tip. That ends the inning, and a scoreless inning for Matt Morris. We are through 7 here in Seattle. 8th inning, without a doubt, a game for the kids. So many in attendance here tonight, including a couple down in the National League dugout, a couple who have a chance to be future All-Stars. Here's Steve Lyons.
It's not just the All-Stars dads that have so much fun here, the kids too. I've got Garrick Schilling here and Nikolai Bonds. And Garrick, you having a good time here tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. And your dad didn't pitch, though. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
All right. And you know, your dad, everybody keeps talking about how many home runs is he going to hit? Is he going to break the record? Do you think he's going to break the record?
He could if he tries.
Oh, you think he's going to try, though, don't you?
Yeah.
All right. You having a good time?
Yes.
All right. One more question for you. Could your dad beat up his dad? Just kidding. All right, Joe. Let's go
Steve.
back to you guys.
Thank you. Thanks to those 2 young ones, and these major leaguers certainly do not waste this opportunity as Guzman takes over at short after batting for Jeter. They bring their kids. They make it a family event. The All-Star game, and this guy has been downright nasty. Troy Percival, who may be the best in the game right now. Hello. Phil Nevin, welcome to the All-Star game. You just got a 98-mile-an-hour fastball at your letters.
Phil thinking, well, I've had to wait 7 innings for this.
Oh. Percival can hit 100 miles per hour on the radar gun. He's got a breaking ball that he's getting over the plate, and after having 4 years where his ERA went up every year, his ERA is under 1, and he has been virtually unhittable. 0.84 ERA. As Nevin flies one into right center, it slices to Cameron. One away, and let's go back down to the dugout and Kevin Kennedy.
Okay, John, with another one of those great shortstops in baseball. Younger than I thought. I thought he was 26 years old. What'd you tell me?
21. I just turned 21.
21 and 4 World Series rings, Derek. How do you keep going? What more is there for you? A lot of guys played this game for years and never even got to the World Series.
Well, we want to continue to win. You know, that's our biggest goal. We don't really focus on what we've done in the past because we want to continue to win. And you get spoiled when you win in New York City, so hopefully we can get another shot at it.
Are your parents here tonight?
Yeah, they make
are they the ones that keep you so grounded, or what? They get on you once in a while?
Yeah, they make sure you don't come home with a big head, otherwise you can't go home.
Okay. All right, Derek. Thanks a lot. Just hit a home run and get out, you know.
I know they got to let the young guys take over. I'm getting too old now.
All right. Thanks a lot. Joe, back upstairs.
All right, Kevin, thanks. Jimmy Rollins is the hitter. Jimmy Rollins, who has done nothing but impress in his rookie season, catching everything at shortstop for Larry Bowa's team, stealing bases, getting hits, popping home runs, switch hitter. He is a good young player.
He has been the most valuable Philly for Larry Bowa's bunch. Phillies game in front of the Atlanta Braves. Jimmy is from Oakland, and his idol growing up, Ricky Henderson. And Jimmy was the shortstop when Ricky Henderson broke Babe Ruth's record earlier this year in San Diego. What a thrill that was.
Rollins a little late on a 97-mile-per-hour fastball. It's 3-2. Rollins has stolen 23 consecutive bases to break the Phillies record previously held by his manager Larry Bowa, and he works a 1-out walk out of Troy Percival here in the 8th inning. That's something Percival has kept to a minimum this season. Weeknights at 11:30 on Fox Sports Net. It's The Last Word with Jim Rome, television's only brutally honest sports commentary, one of the most opinionated figures in the business. Tonight, Jim is right here in Seattle, where he will sit down with Major League Baseball Commissioner Bud Selig to discuss the first half of the season and the future of baseball. Last word with Jim Rome tonight, 11:30 p.m. only on Fox Sports Net. 1 on, 1 out. Berkman takes it high for ball 1. So Bud Selig will be the guest. A lot to talk about. Traction. The status of the new agreement. There is going to be a new agreement between the sides. Rollins is running. Berkman comes up empty, and Jimmy Rollins steals another. 1 ball, 1 strike on Berkman as Rollins got a great jump.
He has been getting a lot of great jumps lately. You mentioned the 23 stolen bases in a row. That's from the second base umpire cam. Gives you a little belated view of that slide.
That's Jim Joyce, who's got the camera on the bill of his cap. A squirter to third. Gloss picks it up. He's got a great arm. And he shows it there. 2 out.
Joe, our thanks to Donald Fair and Gene Orza for cooperating, and I mean cooperating in a terrific way, and having the players mic'd, having both managers mic'd, Joe Torre, Bobby Valentine, trying to bring you folks at home a little bit different flavor from the All-Star game.
Certainly not just those in charge, but those who are actually doing it. Bobby Valentine, Joe Torre. First baseman, catchers wearing microphones, umpires wearing cameras. Runner at second, 2 out. Ryan Klesko takes a ball in the dirt from Troy Percival. Mike Sweeney, one of the first basemen in this game. Every first baseman wearing a microphone. We'll hear a little something from Mike in a moment. 1 ball, no strikes. Runner at second, 2 out. 4-1. The American League leads it. 1 ball, 1 strike. Here's Sweeney.
You can walk the or if the game wasn't out of hand, you could walk the second on this guy. He's like 1-6.
I'm going anyway.
Yeah, why not? Yeah,
Not a bad attitude. I'm going anyway. It's the All-Star game. Sweeney saying if it wasn't 4-1, he'd probably run here. And Rollins said, wait a minute. It's 4-1? I don't care. I'm running. He did, and he was successful. And he's at second with 2 out and a 1 ball, 1 strike count on Klesko.
May not get that opportunity again.
No. It's what he does.
What does he do after that little chat with Sweeney?
Bye, Mike.
I'm gone. See you later. Nice talking to you, Mike.
Hand first. The dangerous hand first slide into second base. An awkward slide by Rafael Furcal this past week, and the Braves have lost their talented shortstop and their big speed threat at the top of their lineup. It wasn't hand first. It was an odd feet first slide where he said he left the ground too late. He ended up dislocating his left shoulder. He had surgery on it, and he is lost for the year. The Braves cannot replace him. Klesko is gone as Percival just flat out blew it right by him. The National Leaguers are down in the 8th. They're down in the game 4-1 as this game goes to the bottom of inning number 8. Wagner takes over representing the Houston Astros. Hard throwing left-handed closer, 19 saves. Back from elbow trouble. Take a look at our Speed Pass in-game box score. Brought to you by Mobile. For the American League, Bernie Williams 0 for 1. Magglio Ordonez a home run, a single. Mike Cameron, who will bat here, has a double with his 1 hit and 2 at bats. Posada 1 for 1 with a double. Players have come and gone out of that lineup. Cal Ripken Jr. a home run for the first run of the night back in the 3rd inning. And here is Wagner. And here comes Charles Johnson after going back to the dugout for a moment. 1 on, 1 out. Mike Cameron will be the hitter now with Mike Sweeney set to follow him against the left-hander Wagner.
Joe, we have talked over the course of this game as Sweeney waits on deck about how many pitchers have had arm problems. Matt Morris, Troy Percival, Billy Wagner in the game now. When you throw that hard, eventually it's going to wear down that shoulder or elbow. Arm is not meant to throw 100 miles an hour, and these guys can get it up there with the best of them. Take Billy Wagner, he weighs 175 pounds, and yet throws as hard as Troy Percival.
And you know better than anybody, Wagner generates a lot of the power with the lower half of his body.
Yep.
Big legs, big strong legs. He gets a lot of drive as he powders it past Cameron. 1 ball, 1 strike. Cameron pops it up right side, foul territory. Johnson over to get it. Sweeney eventually gets out of his way. 2 out. We came on the air talking about the international flavor of this game. The birthplaces of the 2001 All-Stars. 45 from the U.S., 5 from Puerto Rico, 5 from the Dominican, 2 from Venezuela, 2 from Canada, 2 from Japan, 1 from South Korea, 1 from Panama. There is a globalization of Major League Baseball. And these countries are well represented here in this 72nd Major League Baseball All-Star Game.
As we said, 7 countries represented. Mariano Rivera, the only Panamanian, but Mariano did not travel with the Yankee contingent because of a bad ankle.
In the category of getting everybody involved in the game that he can, Bobby Valentine will call on Ben Sheets. He'll come on and pitch with 2 out, a man on here in the bottom of the 8th as Sasaki gets ready to try to close it in the 9th. Right now it's Sheets who has an Olympic gold medal back home. From high above, provided courtesy of the Budweiser.com airship, delivered fresh daily from a brewery near you. Budweiser, the official beer, Major League Baseball.
Boy, have the Seattleites ever put on a show this evening.
This has been a wonderful couple of days here in Seattle. Weather has cooperated. Players have had fun. This crowd has been fantastic. And they will certainly continue to cheer all the way into October baseball here in Seattle as Ben Sheets, the gold medal winner, takes over. He shut down Cuba over in Australia. Big reason why the U.S. baseball team brought home the gold. That's outside. 1 ball, 1 strike from the hard throwing right-hander. Tommy Lasorda managed that team. The mentality of the All-Star game has changed drastically back from when you used to play, Tim, because players used to play 8, 9 innings in a game, and it wasn't such an effort to get everybody involved in the game. You've got just about everybody who's here in Seattle as an All-Star having been a part of this game. And you think back to some of the great All-Star moments in history. I mean, Ted Williams wouldn't have been around to hit the game-winning home run in 1941 in Detroit. The 3-run shot in the 9th inning to win it. One of the big highlights in his career.
2 home runs off Rip Sewell in the 1946 All-Star game by Teddy Ballgame.
Sweeney pops it up. Albert Pujols from his second base position called off by Guerrero. And the first 8 innings are history. And now Sasaki will come in and try to close it. For the AL, they lead it by 3. To think that baseball in Japan has been just a 20th century game. They were playing baseball in Japan as early as the 1870s. And Americans going to Japan to play baseball, you can date back all the way to 1913 when the White Sox and Giants played over there. Babe Ruth went there in 1934. And there's a look at Yogi and Mickey run around in the outfield. A welcome to the Dodgers. And Sadahara O meeting Hank Aaron. And these trips to Japan continue even today. Sammy Sosa, Nomar Garciaparra, Randy Johnson. Sosa with a home run, and he knew what to do to please the crowd after he went deep. And now Sasaki, last year's AL Rookie of the Year, Kazuhiro Sasaki, will try to close it down, and these Mariners with 8 representatives could have the winning pitcher in Freddie Garcia, who's in line for the win. The guy Sasaki, who closes games for the Mariners, get the save as he deals with Brian Giles and gets pitch number 1 by him, strike 1.
Once Sasaki gets ahead, he throws that disappearing splitter. I would imagine that's what Giles will see here. No, breaking ball.
It counts 0-2. Sasaki, the career saves leader in Japan. He stepped right in and started closing games for the Mariners, and now he's a valuable piece of this Mariners' success as the splitter is in the dirt and the count goes to 1-2. National League needs 2 base runners to have a chance. It's Giles here batting for Vladimir Guerrero. And Sean Casey is on deck. He'll hit for a Lou, and then Floyd is the scheduled hitter.
It's very difficult for catchers catching different pitchers in the All-Star game.
Getting a piece of it, a one-handed ground ball to second. Alomar takes care of Giles, 1 away in the 9th inning. Coming up after this All-Star game, the late local news on the East Coast, the West Coast here on Fox local programming. Who will be the most valuable player? What will Curt Schilling do with the videotape that he has been taping throughout the course of tonight's game? He was the scheduled starter. He threw over 100 pitches on Sunday, was still tight, couldn't go, so his teammate Randy Johnson, not a bad alternative, made the start for the National League. Here's Sean Casey batting for Alou. And a ball inside with flashbulbs popping all around this park, more so now with Sasaki pitching than at any point even with Ripken at the plate. Nice note for Sean Casey, one of the game's good people. 1 ball, no strikes, and that's the opposite way and out of play, 1-1. The American League has won 4 straight, 4 consecutive All-Star Game victories. They've won 10 of the last 13. That's on the heels when the National League used to dominate between 1963 and 1982. The American League won only 1 time, and that was in 1971 in Detroit. So the AL trying to make it 5 in a row, and that's strike 2 on Sean Casey.
Jimmy Rollins joining the documentary.
Bobby Valentine, his first All-Star game as a player, manager, whatever. Tony Gwynn, his last. Sasaki looking for out number 2 here in the 9th inning. Sean Casey in his way. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 2-2. Joe Torre will go to 4-0 as a manager in an All-Star game if the American League hangs on. His selections caused a lot of controversy, and here are his All-Stars leading 4-1 with 2 out in the 9th. And these proud Seattle fans are happy as Sasaki tries to close it for the American League and help Freddie Garcia, another Mariner, onto the victory. Cliff Floyd, final hope for the National League to extend it. Floyd 0 for 1 since entering back in the 7th. Strike 1. Every National League All-Star got into tonight's game with the exception of the scheduled starter Curt Schilling. Only Milton is left for the American League. Floyd, strike 2. And the American League 1 strike away from a victory here in the 72nd All-Star game. To the right side.
Get there, baby.
The American League has won 5 consecutive All-Star games. Garcia the winner, Park the loser, Sasaki the save, and a big night of baseball for the Seattle Mariners, and more importantly for the fans here at Safeco Field.
The Rockets started for the American League, and the Rockets are ending it for the American League.
Talk about an international flavor to this game. A 2-hour, 48-minute All-Star game. International flavor. Say it again. The winner, Freddie Garcia. The loser, Chan-Ho Park. And the same for Sasaki. Home runs in the game by Ripken, Jeter, Magglio Ordonez. And an RBI with 2 out by Ivan Rodriguez for the American League, accounting for their 4 runs. Kirby Puckett, the honorary captain of the American League team. He'll be headed to Cooperstown. He's a Hall of Famer. The honorary captains for the National League side. This is the 50th anniversary of the shot heard around the world, and the combination of Ralph Branca, who threw the pitch, and Bobby Thompson, who hit the pitch out for the Giants in 1951. And by the way, Ralph Branca is the father-in-law of Bobby Valentine, the National League manager. They were the honorary captains for the National League. We'll take a break. We'll come back and introduce you to the most valuable player of tonight's game. I wonder who it'll be. Back after this from your local Fox station. Another look at Puget Sound, a 4-1 win for the American League. And let's go down to the field with Jeannie Zelasco. Jeannie.
Joe, thank you very much. Cal Ripken, surrounded by your family and your baseball family here in Seattle. You're a man who doesn't like fanfare. You really don't like the spotlight. You can't seem to go quietly into the night.
It's just been a great deal of fun my whole career. The All-Star games, I've been very, very fortunate to go to quite a number of them. But I got to tell you, this one is the most special. Absolutely. This is a great baseball place. The first half of the season couldn't go any better for here in Seattle. And this ballpark is fabulous. I've enjoyed competing, and I've enjoyed having the opportunity to come here and play, especially in the All-Star game.
How much does this MVP trophy mean to you, considering you are at the end of your career, as opposed to 91?
Well, I think you appreciate everything a whole lot more at the end. And I know that when I made the announcement that this was my last year, my eyes have been open a little wider, and I've been aware of the details and all the good things a little bit more. And just being around the guys, playing baseball, competing, you really know how special it is. It's a weight lifted off my shoulders. I can't wait to get to the second half.
Where does this memory rank upon your great career when you think about this night, the standing ovation from the wonderful crowd here, and I know people at home were probably standing up cheering for you. The home run that was incredible. For a man at the end of his career, you still have a lot of pop. Where does this memory rank?
I can't get over it. I've had a great baseball career, one that is like a storybook, and sometimes I really don't know what to think about that, but I've been definitely one of the luckiest persons to play. Been able to play a long time. It certainly is a great game.
I think I speak for everyone here. Just when I think I want to say thank you for the memories, you give us another memory. Thank you very much and congratulations. Your 2001 MVP, Cal Ripken.
Thank you, Jeannie. Congratulations to Cal Ripken Jr. and to the American League. One of many memories we'll take away from Seattle. The 72nd Major League Baseball All-Star Game. We'll return to Seattle after a break and say so long. information on tonight's game and for the latest information on Major League Baseball, go to foxsports.com. For Tim McCarver, Jeannie Jalasco, Kevin Kennedy, Steve Lyons, I'm Joe Buck. So long from Seattle. You've been watching Fox Sports, home of the 2001 baseball playoffs and World Series. We came on talking about the international flavor. This is truly an international city. This is now truly an international game. Garcia, the winner from Venezuela. Park, the loser from Korea. Sasaki, he gets the save from Japan. We said hello to New.
Bonds entered the break with 39 home runs, the most ever in the Major League history. And here comes another one. Just missed us.
That one is going way up. It is off the roof. That hit the transformer up there.
I don't know if there's ever been.
Hey. He's remarkable, and look at that one. Bo Jackson says hello.
Goodbye. Absolutely crushed.
The All Star Game, you know, I've never been one of the first ones to the All Star Game in that locker room. Today I was one of the first guys, and I could look around and just see it start to come to life. And I am going to take it all in and try not to take anything for granted from this point on. Just try to soak it all up, because it is the last opportunity to do that.
I know I sit and wait for the first guy to come and ask me anything, just anything about hitting, baseball, what should I wear, what should I do? Because that's where the kick is for me, is being an older guy, having learned as a younger guy from veteran guys, and kind of passing that on, passing that knowledge on to somebody else. That, for me, is where the big fun is, especially at an event like this, because you're surrounded by the best.
You know, the big question at the end of the season is, where do you want to finish this up? Is it going to happen in Baltimore in front of the fans there?
That's the big question?
Yes, it is.
I don't think that's so big. I think that you know, you live to the schedule. You play the game the way that you think it's supposed to be played. You show up, and you show respect to the schedule. So if you're ending up in New York and your last you know, road trip is Boston, New York, and you're part of the team, that's your obligation.
Now, as we get close to the end, it's tough. It's tough to go out there and go to the park now, because I know that in 2.5 months, you know, I'm not going to be able to go to the park anymore. And that part, you know, I get emotional thinking about it. But I'm not going to lie to you, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be really hard.
You'd have to be, you know, dead not to feel anything. And I try to hide my emotions sometimes, and I try not to let people see it. But I think it'll be difficult, and I'll probably lie to you at the end.
from Seattle, the National League manager, the Mets skipper, Bobby Valentine, and the honorary National League skipper, Tommy Lasorda. Bobby, tell us about the pitching change.
Well, the pitching changes, Kurt Schilling just didn't feel like he was up to snuff. He threw today on the side, had his side workout, and didn't think he should be pitching in the All Star game today. So we have to go with Randy Johnson. Imagine that. And Randy will start for the National League.
So, Bobby, you trying to win the game, or are you trying to get everybody happy and into the game?
Well, I think we're going to try to win the game by getting everyone to play. I think that when you have 30 of the greatest players in the world, you're not taking any chances by letting them all play.
So, Tommy Lasorda, what advice do you have here for your buddy?
Well, I know one thing. I'm so honored to be here with him. It's just unbelievable. Bobby has done a tremendous job, and I'm just going to sit back and watch him and see how he operates. And I know one thing. He's going to bring this team to victory today.
We're going to operate together, actually, Len.
Well, you're going
to... And, you know, it's first time.
The Vets' recent turf issues confirm what we already believed. It's a stadium deserving of the wrecking ball. But what venues rank as the all-time worst? Remember Old Comiskey in Chicago? Disco Demolition Night didn't go far enough. If a structure could be decrepit, this was it. And replaced it with New Comiskey. Somehow an edifice less charming than its predecessor was erected. And is it steep? Let's just say that sharpists are afraid to scale its upper tier. Give it 2 sticks of dynamite. Most of baseball's domes have gone the way of the dodo. The 8th wonder of the world led us only to wonder how many homers Jeff Bagwell could have hit if he had played his entire career at Enron. Antiseptic is a compliment. In this age of the space shuttle, the Astrodome was Skylab. Its sibling dome in the Pacific Northwest, the King Dome, went out in grand style. But besides Junior, a Bo Jackson run and some wayward ceiling tiles, it had all the charisma of a basement. Unfinished. 2 domes, 2 sticks of dynamite. And then there's Tropicana Field in Tampa. Some would say it's a venue with the charm of a mortuary. Even Dick Vitale, who is the equivalent of 1,000 fans himself, fails to bring it to life.
It's a circus under there. You need trapeze artists flying over those catwalks overhead. You got glass shattered when a guy hits a pop-up and hits one of those lights. You're on fake grass. Just not a good ballpark to play in. There's no life, no atmosphere whatsoever there.
Final grade, 3 sticks of dynamite. How about football? 2 words, dog pound. 2 more letters, PU. The old Municipal Stadium in Cleveland offered the worst of everything. Rabid fans and horrible facilities. Facilities you wouldn't even put a dog in.
Cleveland's old Municipal Stadium, horrible. It was an old baseball locker room. You hang your clothes up on nails and have to duck your head to get out on the field. That was one of the worst regular turf fields that you'd ever play on. After that, it was the Astrodome in Foxborough, man. Bad people, bad stadiums, bad fields. Didn't like to go there, didn't like to play there. Hope I never have to go there again.
And not to leave out its sister to the south, Riverfront Stadium, an affront to say the least.
In Cincinnati in particular, they had a slant at the end zone. I used to go out there in pregame and get down on that slant, and I go, I hope we're right about here running the ball because I'm going to have a good amount of downhill running here when I get after these guys.
With the stadium being retired, our going-away prize? 3 sticks. Though today's NBA offers the highest quality and luxury, the NBA of yesteryear gave us the rickety seats of the Boston Garden and Chicago Stadium. But the only thing close to the fun generated at the old LA Sports Arena may have been a good nap. Plenty of good seats, and what a dynamic team. That makes the Antique Sports Arena a 4-stick special. Kaboom!